Hello everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you're doing good. And DC TechNet is your own channel, so do like, share and subscribe. And let's see what we have today. Today we are going to touch base on group policy preferences. So let's see what we have on the agenda today. So first and foremost, we'll see what are group policy preferences. Then we'll go for the primary usage of group policy preferences. And then we'll wind up today's session with the difference between policy and preferences. So our next session is filled with labs. So it's a labs only session, and we will be configuring a lot of group policy preferences, and we will be cross verifying as well if the things work properly on the client end as well. So please don't miss both the sessions, today's session and the next session. So what are group policy preferences? So a group policy preferences allow the administrator to configure options that would normally be configured using logon scripts. So in earlier days, the administrators used to use a lot of logon scripts to configure some settings, and that was again a threat. So Microsoft introduced something called as group policy preferences. So group policy preferences enables say IT admins to configure, deploy and manage operating systems and application settings they previously could not manage using group policy. Say for example, mapped drive, schedule tasks, start menu settings, or say if you want to make an entry in the registry, it was not possible through group policy. The admins used to use a logon script for that. So for many settings, group policy preferences are better alternatives to configure them in Windows images, or let's say using logon script. So let us understand a brief history of group policy preferences. Where did it all started? So in the October 2006, Microsoft acquired a company named Desktop Standard, and that company used to develop enterprise desktop management products based on group policy. So one of the tools that was developed by Desktop Standard was named as Policy Maker. And now Microsoft integrated this Policy Maker tool in Windows Server 2008, and today this Policy Maker is well known as, today we know this as group policy preferences. So there were no group policy preferences in Windows Server 2003 Active Directory. It was introduced in Windows Server 2008. So let us understand the difference now between policy and preferences. Now before going ahead, let us understand how does group policy actually configures a computer. Let's take an example over here. Let's say we have a user Marty, and we have say a Windows 10 machine, let's say PC 10, and Marty logs on to this PC 10 with his domain credentials. So what happens is the group policy is pulled. So Marty will be the member of some OU, and there will be some policies applied. So all the policy settings will be pulled for Marty, and it will go ahead and make changes in the registry of PC10, and the Windows operating system will read these registry settings and configure accordingly or make the changes accordingly, and Marty will be able to use this PC as per the policy. So the entire the operating system is controlled by the Windows registry, and the registry settings are changed by the group policy. So we have a complete descriptive video on how this mechanism works. I'll be leaving a link in the description. Let's take an example. Let's say in one of the policies we have blocked command prompt for Marty. So the group policy will inject this setting in the registry. The Windows operating system will read the registry, and the command prompt will be blocked or disabled for the username Marty. So this is how it works at the back. So again, the registry contains two main hives that are affected by group policy. The first hive is H key local machine, which contains the settings that are applied to a computer and all the users who logs onto that computer. And the other main hive is H key underscore current user, which contains settings that are specific to the user that is currently logged on to the computer. So these are the two main hives in the registry exclusively for group policy. So if you want to know more about registry, we have given some basic information about the registry in that video as well. Now let us look at the difference between policy and preferences. So preferences settings are written to the original registry location that the application or the operating system itself write to. Now whereas policy settings are not written to the original registry locations. Instead, as we have seen it, they have written to the specific hives under registry, namely H key local machine and H key local user. So the preference is directly written to the registry, and the group policy settings are not written to the registry. They are written to the two special hives. So unlike policy settings, which are strictly set by group policy and may not be modified by the user, however, whenever we make any changes or whenever we go for settings under preferences, the user can override it, the user can edit it, the user has full permissions to remove it as well. For example, we took the example of Marty. So we have blocked Marty from accessing the command prompt. So Marty won't be able to override it. Okay. But if you have done something related, something through group policy preferences, user will be able to override it. So that's again a difference. Policy setting refresh regularly. So every policy setting will refresh every now and then, 90 to 120 minutes by default. So the client computer will contact the domain controller every 90 to 120 minutes and it will refresh the group policies. Whereas preference can either be refreshed at the same schedule where it was applied or written only once. That's it. It won't get refreshed every now and then. Now, if a policy setting is removed from the group policy object, it gets removed from the target as well. Let's say we again re-enabled command prompt for Marty. So it will get removed from the registry and Marty will be able to use the command prompt. But this is not the case with preference. If a preference setting is removed from the group policy object, the setting remains on the group policy target. So we have to explicitly remove it. If you have enabled it, you have to disable it. So let's open up a policy and see the group policy preferences now. So if you see, I've opened up a policy and I've expanded user configuration, and under user configuration we have preferences, and we can see we have so many preferences over here. So you can see there are two things, say two containers, policies and preferences. So we have expanded preferences over here. So these are all the things we can do in preferences under user configuration. And same thing say applies to computer configuration as well. So we have preferences under computer configuration, and these are the preferences under computer configuration. So in our next session we will be dealing with at least say 4 to 5 group policy preferences. So let us summarize, say what we have seen in today's session. So the summary is, a user won't be able to modify, override or delete any settings configured by group policy, whereas a user can modify, override, delete any setting configured by group policy preferences. If a policy setting is removed from the group policy object, it gets removed from the group policy target. Whereas if a policy setting is removed from the group policy object, okay, if the preference setting is removed from the group policy object, the setting remains on the target. So this is the core difference between our group policy and group policy preference. Hope you have enjoyed today's session. If you have any questions, any queries, please do write and comment, and in our next session we'll be taking up our labs on group policy preferences, and see you then in the next video. Thank you.